and welcome to News Tonight. I'm Tina Jha. Before I take you through what made news during the day, I appeal to all our viewers to continue to maintain COVID-appropriate behavior in order to stay safe from coronavirus. Remember to wear your face masks, wash your hands and face regularly, and ensure that you maintain physical distancing each time you step outside. Remember, we are still in the midst of the pandemic, and these simple precautions are all that it takes to defeat it. And now, the headlines of the day. Both houses of Parliament adjourned sine die after conclusion of the budget session. 20 bills introduced in both houses during the session. The Parliament passed 18 bills. Rajya Sabha records over 90% productivity in the budget session, informs Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu. Praises members for maintaining positive momentum in 5 sessions in a row. The Upper House passed 19 bills in 23 sittings of its 253rd session. Lok Sabha clocks 114% productivity in the budget session. 18 bills passed by the lower house. More than 500 matters of public importance raised during the session. Lok Sabha also took up short-duration discussion on women empowerment. Campaigning concludes for the first phase of assembly elections in West Bengal and Assam. 30 seats in Bengal, 47 seats in Assam to go to polls on the 27th of March. Parties intensify campaigning for the second phase of polling. India committed to deepen and diversify ties with Bangladesh, says Prime Minister Modi, ahead of his 2-day visit to the neighbouring country starting tomorrow. The Prime Minister will attend the 100th birth anniversary celebrations of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman summit meeting with Sheikh Hasina on Saturday in Dhaka. Both houses of Parliament were adjourned sine die on Thursday after the conclusion of the budget session ahead of the scheduled 8th April. The nearly 2-month-long budget session was curtailed due to the demand by various political parties to end the session due to the upcoming assembly elections in 4 states and 1 union territory. Here's a report.
In this house.
The 253rd session of Rajya Sabha ended on Thursday. In his valedictory address, the chairman congratulated the members for high productivity. Giving a brief account of the performance of the House, the Rajya Sabha chairman said the upper house functioned for a total of 104 hours as against the total scheduled time of 116 hours. Against a total of 33 sittings scheduled from the 29th of January to 8th of April, the House concluded after holding 23 sittings.
As against total 33 sittings scheduled from January 29th to April 8th, we are concluding after having 23 sittings. The budget session provided opportunities to members of this House to deliberate on the issues concerning economic growth and recovery, especially in the post-COVID phase. Honorable members, this House functioned for a total of 104 hours and 23 minutes against the total scheduled time of 116 hours and 31 minutes during these 23 sittings.
The productivity of the House, including both parts of the budget session, has been about 90%, while the productivity of the first part of the session from 29 January to 12 February has been 99.06%. The productivity of the second part, that began on the 8th of March, comes to about 85%.
This, in effect, means the productivity of this House, including both the parts of this budget session, has been about 90%. While the productivity of the first part of the session has been 99.6%, productivity of the second part of the session that began on March 8th comes to about 85%. A total of 21 hours and 26 minutes of the House has been lost due to disruptions during this session. Comforting, however, is the fact that as against this loss, the House sat beyond the scheduled time for about 14 hours and 28 minutes to complete the legislative and other business.
The discussion on the motion of thanks on the President's address took place on 4 days with a duration of 15 hours and 37 minutes, with 50 members taking part in the discussion. The Union Budget was discussed for 10 hours and 43 minutes on 3 days, with 45 members participating in it. In the legislative business, the House passed 19 bills, including the return of the appropriation bills and the finance bill. 34 hours and 4 minutes were spent on the discussion on these bills, which is about 42% of the total functional time spent on legislative business. As many as 199 members participated in the discussion on the bills. The working of Jal Shakti, Railways and Tourism Ministries was discussed for 11 hours and 13 minutes. 61 members participated in the discussion on the functioning of these ministries. Members raised 273 issues of urgent public importance through 163 zero-hour submissions and 110 special mentions. 113 starred questions were orally answered, which comes to 34% of the total 329 starred questions listed. During the recess, 8 department-related parliamentary standing committees examined the demands for grants of the related ministries and presented 28 reports. Kriti Mishra's report for Sansad TV. The Lok Sabha also recorded a highly productive budget session. The lower house passed 18 bills and raised over 500 matters of urgent public importance. The fifth session of the 17th Lok Sabha, which commenced with the President's address on 29 January, concluded on Thursday. A total of 24 sittings were held, which lasted for 132 hours. The productivity of the House during this session stood at 114%. In the first part of the session, the motion of thanks on the President's address was discussed for 16 hours 58 minutes. 149 members participated in the discussion. The House spent 14 hours 42 minutes on the general discussion on the Union Budget. A total of 146 members participated in the discussion. During this session, 17 government bills were introduced and a total of 18 bills were passed.
During this session, 17 government bills were introduced. In all, 18 bills were passed. Some of the important bills which were passed are the Arbitration and Conciliation Amendment Bill 2021, the National Capital Territory of Delhi Law's Special Provisions Second Amendment Bill 2021, the Mines and Minerals Development Regulation Amendment Bill 2021, the Constitution Schedule Caste Order Amendment Bill 2021, the Insurance Amendment Bill 2021, the Government of National Capital Territory of Delhi Amendment Bill 2021, the Marine Aids to Navigation Bill 2021, the Finance Bill 2021, the National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development Bill 2021, and the Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Amendment Bill 2021. 84 star questions were orally answered. A total of 583 matters of urgent public importance were raised by the members after question hour and by sitting late in the evening. A total of 392 matters under Rule 377 were taken up. The House also held a discussion on one calling attention regarding women empowerment, which was later converted into short duration discussion under Rule 193. The standing committees presented 163 reports to the House. As many as 48 statements under Direction 73A and 4 suo motu statements were made by the ministers.
Demands for grants from the Ministries of Railways, Education and Health and Family Welfare for the year 2021-22 were discussed in the House. The discussion lasted for a total of 21 hours 43 minutes. Demands for grants of all the remaining ministries were taken together for approval, after which the appropriation bill was passed. A total of 583 matters of urgent public importance and a total of 405 matters under Rule 377 were taken up. 84 starred questions were answered orally. With inputs from Ravindra Singh Sharan, Bureau Report, Sansad TV. Parliamentary Affairs Minister Prahlad Joshi said as many as 18 bills were passed in the budget session of Parliament, which concluded on Thursday. He also added that the budget session was a highly productive one due to the cooperation of parliamentarians from all parties. The second part of the budget session, which started on the 8th of March, was scheduled to end on the 8th of April. The first leg of the session began on the 29th of January. During this session, a total of 20 bills, 17 in Lok Sabha and 3 in Rajya Sabha were introduced, and 18 of them were passed by the Lok Sabha and 19 by the Rajya Sabha. He said the total number of bills passed by both houses of parliament stands at 18. He said during the entire session, there were 24 sittings of the Lok Sabha and 23 of the Rajya Sabha. The first part of the session yielded a total of 12 sittings of the lower house and 11 of the upper house. Both houses had 12 sittings each in the second part of the session.
24 sittings of the Lok Sabha and 23 sittings of the Rajya Sabha are held. Total 20 bills we have introduced, 17 in Lok Sabha, 3 in Rajya Sabha. Put together 18 bills from both the houses have been passed. Many of the important bills we have passed. Apart from financial business, the Mines and Mineral Development Regulation Amendment Bill.
The Parliament passed the National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development Bill 2021, with the upper house passing it on Thursday. The bill paves the way for the creation of a development finance institution which will help fund long-term infrastructure projects in the country. As part of the National Infrastructure Pipeline, the government plans to invest 111 trillion rupees in 7,671 infrastructure projects in the next 4 years. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that the institution aims to address market failures that stem from the long-term, low-margin and risky nature of infrastructure financing. The Lok Sabha had passed the bill earlier this week.
Professionally run, the government will appoint only the chairman. But the institutional arrangement for the appointments of members or the MDs and the DMDs will be done and recommended by the Bank Board Bureau, the BBB, and it will be vetted and finalized by the Nomination and Remuneration Committee of the board. So the appointments will be done by the board and not by the government, so it will have to be professionally run. Clause 26 in Chapter 6 of the Act itself, which is before us for consideration, and there you will see in paragraph 5, and I read that as a quotation from here, the institution, which is this institution that we are considering today, the institution shall furnish to the central government and the Reserve Bank within 4 months from the date on which its accounts are closed and balanced, a copy of its balance sheet and accounts, together with a copy of the auditor's report and a report of the working of the institution during the relevant year. Honorable Member Satish Mishra did raise why only 5 years. No, every year. But the report later by a third party is on once in 5 years. But here we are saying every year. So the working of the institution during the relevant year, and the central government shall, as soon as maybe after they have received by it, cause the same to be laid before each house of the parliament. We are getting that report, audited report, to be placed in each of the house of the parliament. Now, the institution shall furnish from time to time to the central government and to the Reserve Bank of India such returns as the central government or the Reserve Bank may require. Every time the government would want something from them, they will demand of it, and it will have to be submitted by them.
This bill is a very ambitious bill. The Finance Minister, in her speech, has already outlined what this organization will do. She has provided 20,000 crores in this budget, and she is hoping that in 5 years from now, the loan portfolio will be 5 lakh crores. The initial paid-up capital of this company is going to be 1 lakh crores, and the government shall hold, not may, shall hold a minimum of 26%. This is a government company.
A separate financial dedicated institution is required to propel the economy, and today I'm sure the financial market will be extremely happy, and especially when they see the bill which embodies all the relevant aspects of a financial development financial institution which should be having to ensure that it plays a very important and pivotal role in developing and financing the infrastructure space.
Sir, this DFI NABID is expected to create a lending portfolio of at least $5 trillion. 5 trillion rupees, 5 trillion rupees in about 3 years. This is a huge sum, sir, which will potentially revolutionize Indian infrastructure, generate jobs, boost employment, and lead to a virtuous cycle of economic growth in our country.
बड़ी कंपनियां आए, ठीक है, देश का विकास होना चाहिए, लेकिन देश के जो बेरोजगार हैं, यहाँ देश के लोग हैं जो चाहते हैं सरकारी उस पर ज़्यादा विश्वास है उनका, तो उसमें उनको ध्यान देने की आवश्यकता है, क्योंकि इस बिल में जो सबसे बड़ी बात हमने कही है कि सब जांचों से बाहर रखा गया है, इसलिए इसको सेलेक्ट कमेटी भेजने की आवश्यकता है।
आपने बजट में भी कहा था कि 7,000 प्रोजेक्ट्स हैव बीन आइडेंटिफाइड अंडर द नेशनल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पाइपलाइन। मैं माननीय वित्त मंत्री साहिबा से जानना चाहूंगा कि इसमें से बिहार के हिस्से में कितना है। सन 47 के बाद से बिहार को उसका हिस्सा, उसका हक नहीं मिला है। बहुत बड़ी बड़ी बातें हुई, लेकिन बिहार सर, और मैं फिर दोहराता हूं कि बिहार के विकास की भूख को इस पाइपलाइन में कुछ प्रोजेक्ट्स लीजिए इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में और उस भूख को खत्म करिए।
As the budget session of Parliament concluded, Minister of State for Parliamentary Affairs V. Muralidharan said that the high productivity reflects the Parliament's commitment towards addressing issues concerning people. Listening.
So the productivity of the 253rd session of Rajya Sabha was around 85%. Definitely, the recent trend that we've seen of high productivity continued during this session as well.
Yeah, definitely. During the last 4 to 5 sessions, we have been continuously having high productivity, and we have been adopting Rajya Sabha has adopted many path-breaking bills also. The enactments that we brought forward, they would definitely take the country ahead in the coming days. I consider that this time, other than the budget and other related financial bill and other matters, 3-4 major bills we could pass this time. One is the major ports bill. Second is the insurance amendment. And third is the establishing of a national bank on infrastructure and financing.
A 2-day workshop on Hindi training for non-Hindi speaking MPs was organized in Parliament by the Rajya Sabha Secretariat in collaboration with the Rajbhasha Vibhag of the Home Affairs Ministry. MPs from Gujarat and Karnataka participated in this training program. Topics like Devanagari script, Hindi alphabets, word and sentence formation, tenses, and use of Hindi in day-to-day functioning of Parliament, among others, were covered during this workshop. And let's now get you all the news from the poll-bound states. The stage is set for the first phase of assembly elections in West Bengal and Assam. The high decibel campaigning in both states came to an end on Thursday evening. 30 seats in West Bengal will go to polls in the first phase on the 27th of March. These 30 seats in Bengal are spread across tribal-dominated Purulia, Bankura, Jhargram, Purba Medinipur and Paschim Medinipur districts. 191 candidates are in the fray for the first phase of polling. Elections to the 294-seat West Bengal Assembly is being held in 8 phases. In Assam, 47 assembly seats will go to polls on the 27th of March. Over 250 candidates are contesting in the first phase. 3-phased elections are being held for 126-seat Assam Assembly. And talking about the ongoing vaccination drive against coronavirus, over 5 crore 31 lakh doses of vaccine doses of COVID-19 have been administered in the country till date. More than 23 lakh vaccine doses were given in just the past 24 hours. Meanwhile, India's active case load now stands at 3,95,000, comprising 3.35% of the country's total positive cases. 53,476 new cases were reported in the last 24 hours, taking the COVID-19 tally to over 1 crore 17 lakh. 251 deaths were reported in the same period, bringing the total death toll in the country due to COVID-19 to 1,60,692. COVID-19 recoveries have crossed 1 crore 12 lakh, with 26,490 recoveries in the last 24 hours. The national recovery rate has come down to 95.28%. 10,65,000 samples were tested in the last 24 hours, and with this, India has tested over 23 crore 75 lakh samples of COVID-19. Talking about states, Maharashtra continues to report the highest daily new cases at 31,855, followed by Punjab with 2,613 cases, while Kerala reported 2,456 cases of COVID-19 yesterday. Three states, Maharashtra, Kerala and Punjab, together account for 74.32% of the total active cases in the country. Maharashtra alone accounts for 62.91% of the total active cases in India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will embark on a two-day visit to neighbouring Bangladesh on Friday. The Prime Minister will take part in the birth centenary celebrations of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the Golden Jubilee of the liberation of Bangladesh, and 50 years of the establishment of diplomatic ties between India and Bangladesh. Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla, while briefing reporters on the PM's visit to Bangladesh, said on Wednesday that a range of pacts will be signed and new announcements for bolstering cooperation in several areas will be made during the two-day visit. He also said some of the areas where agreements will be inked are disaster management, trade and oceanography. During his visit, the Prime Minister will also call on the President of Bangladesh, Mohammad Abdul Hamid, and also hold restricted and delegation-level talks with his counterpart, Sheikh Hasina. The Prime Minister is also scheduled to visit the National Martyrs Memorial, which is located in Savar. Both Prime Ministers will also inaugurate the Bangabandhu Bapu exhibition in Dhaka that will showcase the life and legacies of the two great leaders.
Both countries are commemorating 50 years of the establishment of diplomatic ties this year. India, as you're aware, was one of the first countries to recognize Bangladesh in 1971, on 6th of December 1971 to be precise. This is also the year of commemoration of the 100th birth anniversary of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the father of the Bangladesh nation, being celebrated throughout Bangladesh as Mujib Borsho. This is the first visit of the Prime Minister after the onset of the COVID pandemic. This highlights the significance that India attaches to its ties with Bangladesh.
Ahead of his visit to Bangladesh, the Prime Minister said in his departure statement that India is committed to provide abiding support to its neighbour for its economic and developmental strides. He expressed happiness that his first foreign visit after the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic will be to the friendly neighbouring country. The Prime Minister also said his visit to Bangladesh will be an occasion to convey appreciation for the country's remarkable development under Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's visionary leadership. And that's it from us in this bulletin. But before we leave, let me once again remind all our viewers to continue to maintain COVID-appropriate behaviour in order to stay safe from the pandemic. Remember to wear your face masks, wash your hands and face regularly, and ensure that you maintain physical distancing each time you step outside. These simple precautions on our part are all that it takes to defeat the ongoing pandemic. Take care, good night, and thank you for your time.